Travis, my good soul. Take two. Had the cord plugged in. That screws up the volume. I had a comment as I checked after each video that I'd post from a subscriber for about a couple years now. She linked me to a true crime story channel, and the video topic was on Chad Daybell, as told by Heather, one of the family members, and she is trying to explain how unbelievable it is, the story of murderous Mormon Chad and the butchery by which he murdered the kids. But if you're unfamiliar with the news in Utah, which, even though Chad is from Rexburg, Idaho, and Lori Vallow is from Arizona, the news stories about Mormons are such that Mormons are very evil, very violent people, just like their Danite ancestors from which they descend from. And it's scary, literally. These are not good people, and yet I grew up among them. I am Mormon myself, and I've explained how my mom's side of the family is the only pioneer ancestry of Danites. And I see that now, in retrospect, as my mom was racist and blamed my parents for being, or her parents for being more racist, as a justification for her. But no, it was Grandma. She threw in Grandpa too, which is strange because my grandpa's side of the family comes from the South Carolina plantation owners, or North Carolina plantation owners, of which my paternal ancestor raped my maternal ancestor, his slave girl, underage slave girl, and thus came me as a descendant. And so I don't qualify for reparations. She doesn't get justice. So yeah, I disapprove of reparations. It's too late now, because only those who qualify for reparations are those of the pure bloodline of slaves, which is, are you not even thinking? You're upset with whites who want a pure master white race. Anyway, beyond the topic of the conversation for this video. Nonetheless, Mormons are evil and murderous and disrespectful. Because again, another Mormon disrespecting me. And it's a common apologetic Mormon trait. Mormon apologetics, they use ad hominem attacks. When people criticize the church, saying, no, there was no European animals in America, the archaeology doesn't bear this out, Mormon apologists, instead of going to the science to say, well, there was this dig site in which this is comparable to a European cow. No, because that doesn't exist. There's no such archaeological finds. Instead, to protect and defend the church as apologists, they use fallacy arguments such as the ad hominem attack, which is their favorite, to attack a person's character. You're a dumbass. You're an antichrist core whore. Or, as the comments I'm getting a lot more lately with new people that are being notified of my channel. I have to blow it up. here. I did finally get in my new contact lens, so it no longer burns. It burns. And I can see out of it now. But, I don't have one for close up. The contact lens is for seeing far away. The other contact lens, the eye doctor was a dumbass and gave me a contact lens that I can't see out of either eye. What good is it for? Dear God. Just pay more money for stuff that I don't need. So yeah, for the longest time, I'd go without a contact lens in my right eye. And it has helped strengthen the right eye as a result. It's my previous eye doctor, who was a dumbass, was surprised that I can actually improve the quality of the other eye by wearing the contact lens in the other one. But nonetheless, again, not part of the video topic conversation. Bimhoff 7793 had also joined in on the conversation. And if you guys hadn't caught on yet, because they're new, they don't know, I hold all comments for review. I will not allow you to violate other people's First Amendment rights. This is my channel. You will not bully or threaten me to be silent. Thus, I hold your abusive comments on purpose so that I can report you or ban you from my channel. The First Amendment for freedom of speech is only for those who allow freedom of speech for everyone equally. When you are a bully, when you make threats, when you are violent in your speech, you are not giving freedom of speech. You do not have freedom of speech to say such things. And we need our whole nation to understand this, because the bullies are trying to destroy America and destroy the Constitution by destroying that amendment. Religious freedom movement is doing the same kind of thing. There is an all-out attack on America right now by all different groups. The press, Fox News, not really news, lying to the viewers. Busted by Dominion voting machines. Yeah. The poor not being allowed to petition the government for redress of grievances. Unequal justice system. Only the rich get justice, etc., etc., etc. There is an all-out assault on America and the Constitution. And the bullies like to claim that the Constitution is under threat because they can't bully people. Dumbasses. And so here, Bimhoff is a bully. He's hiding. He doesn't have a picture for his thumbnail. So it's probably a fake account. Or at least he's not even bothering to even try to make videos or have a Gmail account picture. He's hiding because, yeah. He says, find your own path. Really? My own path? You mean covenant path, right? It's for the same video, in case I didn't mention it. Very disrespectful behavior from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm not attacking Bimhoff. I didn't even know him before he commented his disrespectful comment. He's attacking me and my character for me pointing out that the church is disrespectful for lying to all of us. When you lie to people, you're disrespectful. When you're a bully, you're disrespectful. So I'm telling the truth in my video. But Mormons are offended. The church is true and therefore can do whatever they want. Constitution be damned. No. If the church wants to commit crimes, they are not the true church. They need to be disbanded, disincorporated, and denied religious license because they're not doing what they're saying they do. And so he's also pulling the stunt that Mormons like to do in turning me into the other. I'm Mormon, born and raised, born in the covenant. And there's more to my story. I was a faithful Mormon. Believed that the church was telling me the truth, that the prophets were telling me the truth. They said Joseph Smith is our founder. They said the Book of Mormon is our keystone scripture. And so I believed them. And Joseph Smith came out with a scripture in the King Follett Discourse, as it was called, the funeral sermon of King Follett. And Joseph Smith says that the Hebrew text of the Bible was also translated incorrectly. If you're familiar with Article of Faith number 8, we believe the Bible to be the Word of God as far as it is translated correctly. And so I was confused. Why aren't we correctly translating the Bible? And there's all sorts of excuses, and nobody is just coming out and saying, I don't know. But when you realize that the prophets don't even take the gift of translator, you then begin to understand what's going on. And so I wanted to know not only how Joseph Smith rendered his translation, but what the rest of the text is supposed to say, because I believed him. I believe the Article of Faith. The Word of God cannot be found unless it is translated correctly, and Joseph is saying the Hebrew text is translated incorrectly. So I want to know, and so I eventually had to become an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East and deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Got my answer, and a whole lot more that I wasn't expecting. But that's what happens with faith. Is you obtain knowledge, and knowledge produces more revelation of faith seeds to plant and gain more knowledge and more, line upon line, precept upon precept. And so Bimhoff is turning me into the other, not catching on to my expert knowledge of Mormonism. I'm even the author of the philosophy of Mormonism. I know all about Mormonism. I am the foremost expert. Sorry, Mormons. It's just the way it is when you do your research and study. You chose not to, and so you complain and mock me. And use ad hominem attacks because you're stupid. Ignorance leads to hate. Hate leads to violence. So don't be stupid. And you know this. Scriptures tell you, you cannot be saved in ignorance. You have to gain light and truth. You have to gain intelligence. And so you're only demonstrating that I'm the greatest intelligence. That's all you're doing. I'm greater than you all. You have done it yourself because of your ignorance and the darkness of your soul. And so he's telling me to shut up. Not only is he creating me as the other so that he can attack me, he's telling me to shut up, find your own path, and leave what you don't understand alone. Alone is in all caps, by the way. He does not understand. He has not even read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. By a Mormon, by the way, in case you didn't know. In one of them, he talks about seek first to understand before being understood. Bimhoff did not do that. He comes to one video, sees the title, is offended, makes his comment, leaves. Like the 18-year-old missionary who made his comment and left. And the stats show it, because I have no 18-year-olds who watch my channel. They are too busy with TikTok. They can't be bothered staying and listening for a longer duration than a couple of minutes, if that. And so, yes, after a day or two later, there he was, the 18-year-old male. Sure enough, and it showed that he didn't even last more than a percentage point. He couldn't do it, and I posted the video with it. And so I just, these guys are sad. Mormons are pathetic. You know, it's not really anger, because the church has done this to them. Because they did it to me. But I was smart enough to pursue knowledge, to get answers that nobody was in the church telling me. And I wanted to know. This is my church. You're claiming that Joseph is our founder. I have to go before born-again Christians who are mocking me because they saw the Godmakers movie. And I'm not allowed to watch it. And we didn't have YouTube back then to watch it. You can watch it now. I'm still confused. But when you understand that it was made by Christians, yes, it's blasphemous, it's heresy, it's awful, it's abominable, pagan, satanic. But not if you're Mormon. And it's just, there's nothing wrong with Mormons watching it. But the church came out and said, don't watch it, stay away, don't do it, it's evil. But the Baptists would purposely educate their followers about Mormonism, what they believe, and how to attack them with debate. And the church doesn't do that. The church sends our missionaries to the slaughter. They only have manuals that regurgitates only what they want us to know and regurgitate. They will not cover the extra information. Thus why I do the lesson manuals for you, and did one last night for today's Sunday school lesson, is because the church doesn't want to tell you certain things. They're covering things up. They're keeping things from us. And yes, this is all part of what I'm getting to. And so he then finishes, ooh, you're scary. Huh? And so again, he's projecting. He's scared. That's hilarious. He's scared of me because I pointed out how the church is disrespectful. Huh. So, that's very weird, Bimhoff, if that's your real name. So, there's a bunch of scriptures that if Mormons were actually aware of the Joseph Smith papers, and the rich are because they're the ones buying the publications of them. The church keeps putting out volumes when they get them completed from the Joseph Smith papers. The website, which is free, anybody can look at it and do research from it, and I do my videos from it exposing the church as a fraud and lying to us. It's real easy to do, and I'm still baffled why they're doing it. Because Gerald and Sandra Tanner originally did it. They'd find documents that expose the church as lying to us. They'd publish it in Mormonism, Shadow, or Reality. And then they'd blow it by imposing their Christianity beliefs annotated over the top of the documents. You already had us at original documents. You didn't need to put in your Christian bias. But yeah, now the church is going all out and published the Joseph Smith papers. They don't own them. And that's part of the problem, is that these are free for everybody. Everybody needs access to them. So for the church, if they were to claim a copyright on this, they can go to hell. This is my founder, not yours, because that's what I learned. The church is purposely using Joseph for their advantage. They changed him, replaced his Jewish religion with Christianity. So just like the Tanners, the church likewise has put on their original bias and altered the documents. But you got to go back to the original documents to see what they changed. And once you see the pattern of what they changed, you got it pretty set that you can go through most of the scriptures after that and identify what needs to be changed. And you can run the test to check the Joseph Smith papers for that and go, oh, yep, sure enough. And I've been doing videos for you about the Danites and their influence in the scriptures, which comes from Brigham Young and this church. They're the Danites. And so the church under Brigham Young had published an 1844 edition, put in some stuff by Joseph Smith. And so they had all these documents. They knew of the scriptures. They had them in the Joseph Smith history, the 7-volume set, or at least most of it. But the church did not canonize what was not already canonized by Brigham Young. And so you have to understand that Brigham Young had produced only 2 other editings. A 1844 after Joseph Smith died, and then the one the year before Brigham Young died, 1876. And the Wikipedia page, which I'm trying to get into. No, I'm not going to donate to you. If you can't do it for free, I don't want to use your site. Get your funding from other sources. So you go down to sections added to the LDS edition. That's the Brigham Young edition. Because Brigham Young changed the name of his church to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That was not Joseph's church. Nelson was correct. This is not the church of Joseph Smith. This is the Church of Jesus Christ. That is your God. And Nelson changed Constantine's God to his creation of Jesus. God and Mormons fall for it. Because nobody does their research. You don't go to the original documents that the church has now made available. And so the 1844 added 103, 105, 112, 119 on tithing. Yeah, no. And if you understand that Brigham Young was the one who, after he took over with Joseph dead, he forced Mormons to pay tithing in order to be worthy to go through the temple. Not just the Nauvoo temple, but the mansion home until out was taken care of. And so he sort of pushed Emma out. But yeah, that's the whole purpose of putting in his created tithing section. Did not happen. Joseph never had tithing. No, not his. Brigham Young created it and put it in 1844 mingled it with actual Joseph Smith's scriptures so that he could fool Mormons and get away with his protection racket crime. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. Wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Violating Malachi to this day. Then 124, 127, 128, and 135. And so in 1876, guess what all of a sudden appears magically out of thin air? Creatio ex nihilo. Section 132. As well as 131. 131 was gutted, though. Because when you go to the Joseph Smith papers, you find that there is more substance in 131. And in fact, the method in which Brigham Young set it up is that 131 is now leading into 132 for polygamy. And so 131 only talks about the need for exaltation in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. And so 132, polygamy is the only way to be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. But what was removed? Joseph Smith is talking to a monogamous couple and says, you two, as a monogamous couple, can be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. So now you understand why Brigham Young cut it out. Because that did not fit his agenda of polygamy. Right, ex-Mormons? Just because the church accuses Joseph Smith of polygamy does not mean that the church is all of a sudden telling us the truth. They are liars. We cannot trust them. And so, also what's missing is, from the 1876, Brigham Young also took out the chapter on monogamy. I wonder why. No, I don't. It was rhetorical. It was a joke. I know exactly why. And so, yes, Brigham Young was transforming Joseph's church into his great and abominable church. And Mormons didn't do the research and fell right into the trap, except for the Danites who followed Brigham Young and were part of his crimes. And so that's what you need to understand. The lectures on faith didn't come out until 1921, right? Now, they say in 1930, they don't cover the 1921 edition. That's weird. Why don't they have that? Because Heber J. Grant, right before he reformed the church, resurrected it from the dead, because the United States shut it down in 1887 with the Edmunds-Tucker Act for their tithing crimes. Came out with a publication of the Doctrine and Covenants in 1921. 1921, Doctrine and Covenants. Okay, it's taking me back to the Wikipedia, but it's not in there. Title page of the 1903 reprint of the Book of Commandments, but that's not their they had the 1835 edition. So where are you getting that from? I don't see it here. having had a website myself, I know how they're able to do this, but it really helps us who are searching to be able to find that particular version. And yeah, they're not posting it. Portions removed. 1876. Statement on marriage. And CNN got it wrong. Here it is, 1921. Portions removed. Heber J. Grant had removed the lectures on faith because it didn't fit his evangelical Mormon Christian views. Because it talks about faith being turned into knowledge. Can't have that for evangelical Christians, can you? And so that had to go. That's why that was taken out. And then here's the 1981 edition of the book used code names for certain people and places in those sections that dealt with the United Order. No, there are more. And you missed some. 1981 edition replaced these with the real names, relegating the code names to footnotes. The Community of Christ edition still uses the code names. Section 1, verse 16. Give you a hint, it's not Babylon. Why didn't they change that? And then 117. Yeah, there's several of them in there that were not a part of that. So this attempt is a distraction from the real purpose. And the United Order, yeah, no, And so yes, Section 85 gets put in. Now it's under a new interpretation by Brigham Young. Brigham Young is now the one mighty and strong, and that's why he put it in. He's calling Joseph Smith a fallen prophet, and thus why he took over. And then he gives a talk in which he confesses that Joseph Smith wasn't smart enough to come up with the revelation for polygamy, that it was Brigham who received the revelation from God while in England, having sex with other men's wives, as he was doing here in America. He is a very bad man. And so, if we are going to restore Joseph Smith's scriptures, there's some things that need to be added. We need to first remove all of the Danite fraudulent scriptures. Tithing has to go. Section 116 about Adam on Diamond. Yeah, I did that whole big video research for you, where I showed the Joseph Smith paper original document that showed 116 was put in at a far later date with fresh ink that was not worn from the original paper of the original writing that was crossed off, not used. That's how you can tell something is a fraud, a forgery. And so, yeah, 115, 118, and including 19 with tithing, have to go. 132 has to go. That's not Joseph's doctrine. And so Mormons are confused because they know Brigham Young practiced polygamy, but we know our official declaration number 1 says that we're not even supposed to talk about it. And yet we have section 132 that was not removed from our Doctrine and Covenants. We're not told that John Taylor added to his Doctrine and Covenants his scriptures on polygamy, which the FLDS church kept to justify polygamy for their FLDS church. And then it also contradicts the Book of Mormon that condemns polygamy 5 different times. And then plus Section 131, which Brigham Young had gutted, but didn't bother to put in until the year before he died. Because he gutted it, now it was faith-promoting to use. Because Joseph's not faith-promoting. And so, yeah, that's the one thing that needs to be done. Another thing is you have to restore the original documents. Joseph Smith's Visions has Willard Richards altering the text. Joseph Smith put the Church of Latter-day Saints. That was the name of it in 1838. And Willard Richards, after Joseph died, altered it and put in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Why would he do that? Exactly. He was Brigham Young's lackey, who was promoted after he shot Joseph Smith in the back in Carthage jail. And so, yeah. So the Joseph Smith history needs to be restored back to Joseph Smith's original manuscript. So it's not Moroni, it's Nephi. And it's still gold plates. So why are Mormons pushing to have it changed to golden? It's gold because it's not literal history. It's a vision. But Mormons, they have to have it literal. That's what they're doing, is they're replacing Joseph Smith's Jewish religion with Christian. And so it has to be the same with the Book of Mormon. Literal history. Actual Jesus, but not Constantine's Jesus. No, the real Jesus before Constantine created Jesus as real. An abomination, as Joseph Smith says in the Joseph Smith vision, first vision, verse 19. And so there's other scriptures, bombshell scriptures, that need to be put in our Doctrine and Covenants, because they're by Joseph. He's our founder. I was told as a kid growing up why the King Follett Discourse and other scriptures were not put in. It's because they were not approved by the Quorum of the 12 for publication. And that made no sense to me. As a kid, I'm like, that doesn't, what? Why did they have to approve it? He's the president of the church. Why? He's the founder of our church. Why do they get to silence the founder and president of our church? Because I read from the scriptures that they can't. They have no authority to do so. They themselves are supposed to go around preaching the word of Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. It's a commandment in the Doctrine and Covenants. And so those excuses don't make any sense to me. And now I know why. It's because they didn't. They were unauthorized. We need to restore all of Joseph Smith's writings. So the King Follett Discourse needs to be put in. Also, 17th of March, 1842. All women are aware of this. Yeah, Joseph Smith gave women the priesthood and priesthood office. Let them run it. It's in the Joseph Smith papers. So when Oakes got up at conference and said it is not the divine will of God, well, it was for Joseph's God. And 19 July 1840. Oh, is that a beauty to find? Oh, there's a church past. The 19 July 1840. When you read it, you will understand why Brigham Young, the president of the 12 apostles, similar to Jesus and his 12 apostles at the Last Supper, where Jesus exposes Judas as the betrayer. You will understand why Brigham Young did not get this published. But it's also the source for the Constitution hanging by a thread. We've all heard it. It happened, and Mormons didn't save the Constitution. Mormons instead went to destroy the Constitution at the January 6th riot, seditious conspiracy. So now you understand what Brigham Young was purposely keeping secret from Mormons, and what his ulterior motives for the future were: to overthrow America. When Joseph Smith was trying to warn the Mormons to save America from Brigham Young's threats. And also talks about the actual location of Zion, not in Independence, Missouri. And so, yeah. Lots of good stuff in that one. He also, it's necessary to have published because he adds to his parable that is published in section 101. I think it's starting in verse 43. It's the parable that he gives. And as I did the lesson, or covered the video from the lesson manual for the Doctrine and Covenants, I was appalled. The church service missionaries who wrote the manual, oh, naughty, naughty boys. Naughty, naughty. Because they put Mormons as the servants, not the prophets. Mormons are the 12 olive trees. And because they're the house of Israel, 12 tribes of Israel. And so it's a completely different interpretation when Mormons are the servants. And I'll let you read it to understand why. Because the servants are brave Sir Robin. There's your clue. I think that will be our theme song in the description below. Brave Sir Robin. So if you need further clues because you can't figure it out, I refer you to the song in the description below. And yeah, the lectures on faith need to be restored, as well as the section 131. There was also another one when Joseph Smith got out of Liberty Jail, caused by the Danites, falsely accusing Joseph, getting him framed and locked up in Liberty Jail. Joseph Smith got out in 1839 after Thomas B. Marsh was excommunicated by Brigham because he didn't show up. We are told that Thomas B. Marsh defended his wife's honor over the stealing of milk scrapings or whatever. And if you've milked cows, there's the foam part at the top. She apparently kept that. And so she was excommunicated from the church. And Thomas B. Marsh fought this to defend her honor. And it escalated all the way up to Joseph Smith. And Joseph Smith trusted the priesthood authority and excommunicated Thomas B. Marsh as well. Well, there's some problems. One, his wife didn't get involved in any of that. Two, the Danites, after Joseph Smith got locked up, cooed the leadership of the church. That's how Brigham Young became the president of the 12. The Danites threatened Thomas B. Marsh. Get the hell out of this church, or we're going to kill you. He wanted nothing to do with the church led by Danites now. Brigham Young, having been voted in, not a sustaining vote, voted in by the remaining quorum members who were loyal to Brigham. He then sent a letter to Thomas B. Marsh ordering him to appear before him and his quorum on the 17th of March, 1839, for his disciplinary committee or council meeting, where he's going to be excommunicated. He never bothered to show up. So it did not escalate to Joseph Smith. He was threatened, he left. We're lied to about the whole incident. And as a result, Joseph Smith, when he got out of Liberty Jail and found out what Brigham Young was up to, condemned him in his sermon in 1839 for exalting himself beyond his authority. He was running the church in Joseph's absence. Not allowed to do that. You're a missionary. Get out there and talk about the Book of Mormon as Jewish literature, not Christian with Jesus. Because 1838, Joseph Smith came out with the vision accounts. First vision, second vision, third vision, fourth vision. All designed to show that we're Jewish. And yet Willard Richards put in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Exactly what Joseph Smith was condemning. So now we know who the evil-disposed persons were who were militantly seeking to tarnish the name of Joseph's church and its progress in the world. I refer you to the text to get the actual quoting, because I don't memorize. And then Joseph Smith also called Brigham Young Judas. You just don't do what you do, because he says that Thomas B. Marsh was a good man. And so, yeah, all this talk about Brigham and Joseph being buddies, lie. And so, no, Joseph did not grant Brigham Young authority to create the endowment ceremony. Lie. And so it's important to know the original document information. And we need it restored. And the church won't do it. They have it. They've published it. But they won't make it canon. They won't fix our canon. They won't make the changes back to the original. They're keeping the lies. They're keeping the books hidden still that need to be published. And they won't do it. And it's because they're waiting until they conquer America. And then they can get rid of it altogether. Joseph who? Lucifer's our God. We've been that way the whole time. He's the light bearer. It's a good thing to be a light bearer. We worship the light bearer. Don't you want to be a light bearer too? Uchtdorf gave a talk about being bearers of light. So, alrighty. Looks like I can throw this paper away, except for Brave Sir Robin. Gotta make sure we get Brave Sir Robin on, and then I can throw it away. As I was assembling the thumbnail for this video, I realized there's more to talk about. The Joseph Smith translation also would need to be canonized, as Joseph Smith, Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith Sr. did some major changes that need to be footnoted to the other scriptures that correspond. And so it's important to have that revision, not a translation, revision, put in our canon. Also, in the Pearl of Great Price, there's the Papyri of Abraham. There's also a need for the Papyri of Joseph. Now, nobody knows how to translate it, and so they say that Joseph Smith is wrong. I've translated it. Joseph Smith was right. He made some errors, but he's right on the concept of how to translate. He even reveals that he knows how to translate in his explanations. And so the Book of Abraham papyrus needs to be finished. He did not finish it. And it's incomplete. There's more to add to the story. And the Joseph papyrus also needs to be translated and inserted as well. So there's other stuff to add. And as I've explained, the scriptures that were rejected from the Bible by both the Jews and Christians also need to be added, because they're prophecies about the Christ of Mormons. And so it's vital to have all of the scriptures talking about our Christ. And you can even go into the other cultures and religions of the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and include their scriptures that prophesy of the Christ. Because that's where the Bible stories come from, is Egyptian primarily. Book of Esther is Babylonian. Ishtar. So, yeah, lots of stuff to add that the church will not add.